Amber Collins had the perfect life, until she walked into her daughter's graduation and found her husband's betrayal projected on a 100-foot screen. In one public moment, everything shattered. But beneath the ruins, Amber wasn't broken. She was reborn. What begins as heartbreak spirals into corporate takedown, public reckoning, and a fierce journey of transformation. This isn't just a story of revenge, it's a resurrection. The sun bathed the grounds of Wellington Heights Academy in a golden glow as families gathered to celebrate their children's transition into adulthood. Graduates tossed caps into the sky. Laughter rang through manicured courtyards. Flashbulbs popped like confetti. Amber Collins stood with quiet elegance, her powder blue silk dress hugging her curves, her dark hair swept into a sleek bun. Her smile was bright, but her eyes carried the weight of everything unspoken. She clutched a bouquet of yellow sunflowers, her daughter Isabel's favorite. At her side stood her husband, Gregory Collins, 44, with graying temples and a polished demeanor, his custom suit crisply tailored. A successful architect and the face of professionalism, he looked every bit the devoted father and husband. But something was off. Amber noticed the flicker in his eyes when he spotted Cassandra, the red-haired financial advisor Gregory had introduced to the family last year. She was standing several feet away, acting like just another guest, but her presence burned through Amber like acid. Gregory's gaze lingered too long. Cassandra's smile was too knowing. Amber felt her chest tighten, the world tilting on a painful axis. When Isabel crossed the stage, radiant in her cap and gown, Amber clapped with pride. But even that moment, meant to be pure, was tainted by the suspicion blooming inside her like poison. "We did it," she whispered to Gregory. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, we did." But he wasn't looking at her. He was looking at her. Later that evening, the Collins family hosted an elegant dinner at the Charleston Grill, a southern fine dining staple in downtown Charleston. Amber played the perfect hostess, gliding between tables, offering toasts, and sharing laughs. Cassandra was there too, of course, Gregory insisted. "She helped Isabel navigate her financial aid options," he said. "It's just a gesture of appreciation." Amber wasn't convinced. Cassandra had chosen a wine-red dress that clung too tightly and heels that clacked like war drums across the marble floors. Amber noted every subtle exchange. Gregory's smirk when she entered, Cassandra's coy glance at the ring on his hand. During dessert, Amber leaned in, her voice calm and cool. "Why is she here?" Gregory swirled his bourbon. "She's been helping Isabel, that's all." Amber arched a brow. "Helping or handling?" He sighed, annoyed. "Not here, Amber." "Of course not," she whispered. "But later?" "Oh, yes. Later." After midnight, once Gregory was asleep and the house was cloaked in silence, Amber crept into his study. She'd always trusted him, never snooped, never questioned his loyalty. But now, the gnawing unease refused to be silenced. She checked the drawer beneath the bookshelf. There it was, a burner phone taped under the drawer with cheap electrical tape. Amber's hands trembled as she peeled it off and powered it on. The screen lit up, and her world fell apart. Dozens of messages from Cassandra. "I'll wear the red one you love. I still feel you from last night. When will you finally leave her?" Pictures of them in Aspen, holding hands on balconies, tangled in hotel sheets. The work retreat Gregory claimed was mandatory now made sense. Amber stood frozen, staring at the man she thought she knew, reduced to a sequence of lies in pixels. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, she made a decision. She wouldn't destroy him in a fit of rage. No, she'd do it strategically. She was no victim. She was Amber Collins, and she'd make him regret the day he thought she'd stay silent. In the weeks that followed, Amber mastered the art of deception. She still kissed him goodbye in the mornings, still texted him sweet nothings, still made dinner on Sundays. But while Gregory played husband by day and cheetah by night, Amber was assembling a dossier. She combed through bank accounts. She requested property records. She hired a private investigator with a reputation for quiet, lethal efficiency. What she uncovered left her cold. Over the past 18 months, Gregory had funneled nearly $500,000 into a shell company named Wexler and Hall Investments. It was a fraud. Just a mailbox registered to Cassandra in Miami. He had also mistakenly added Gregory's name to the deed of Amber's lakefront property, a house gifted to her by her late grandmother. A house he had no legal claim to. Amber met with her lawyer, Danielle Price, a no-nonsense attorney with a track record of surgical legal strikes. "I don't want a divorce," Amber said calmly. "I want a reckoning." Danielle smiled. "Then we'll do this right." Amber didn't let her anger cloud her purpose. She played the role of wife flawlessly while tightening the noose. She sent Isabel off to NYU with love, hugs, and tears, never once letting her daughter see the storm looming behind her eyes. She intercepted emails, texts, and travel itineraries. Cassandra, now impatient and emboldened, had begun pushing Gregory harder. "She's gone. You promised. Why are you still there? You said you'd leave her after graduation. It's been months." Amber sent Cassandra an anonymous email from a burner account with one attachment, a screenshot of Gregory's purchase history showing a $6,200 bracelet he claimed was for her, but was gifted to Amber for their anniversary. "Still think you're the only one?" She hit send. Cassandra didn't reply. But that week, Gregory began coming home angry, paranoid, distracted. The cracks had formed. Amber chose the Langford estate as the venue for her next move, a lush, historic mansion known for hosting high-profile charity galas. She arranged the invite list. She ensured that Gregory's name was printed on the donors' wall. She even sent a personal invite to Cassandra. "Let's honor those who helped Isabel succeed," the email read. Gregory didn't question it, nor did Cassandra. The night of the event, Amber arrived first, dressed in a black velvet gown, her diamond drop earrings sparkling like stars. She floated through the ballroom with practiced poise. Gregory arrived 20 minutes later, with Cassandra. He didn't expect Amber at the entrance, sipping champagne, radiating control. "Darling," Amber purred, "you brought a guest. The cameras captured everything." Amber leaned in close enough for Cassandra to hear. "Smile. This is your last night in high society. I hope you dressed for the fall." The following morning, Gregory's empire collapsed. Amber's legal team filed motions to freeze their joint accounts. The private investigator's report landed on the desks of Caldwell and Herring Design's executive board, detailing Gregory's misuse of corporate funds, breach of ethics, and undeclared conflicts of interest. He was suspended within hours. Amber had also quietly filed to reverse the fraudulent deed adjustment on her lake house, citing forged consent and intent to defraud. That evening, Gregory returned home to find the locks changed. Taped to the door was a legal notice: divorce. Pending. Temporary injunction filed. Court date. Set inside, Amber sat by the fire, her wedding ring in a crystal dish. Her lawyer handed Gregory the papers. Amber said nothing. She didn't need to. Gregory Collins sat in the back seat of a black town car, his suit rumpled, hair disheveled, and face pale. The morning after his world collapsed, he still couldn't process how quickly everything had unraveled. The moment he read the court notice taped to the front door, he had understood one thing clearly. Amber wasn't just angry. She was calculating. He reached for his phone to call Cassandra, but she didn't pick up. Not once. Not all night. Amber's move had been surgical, swift, public, and humiliating. He'd tried reaching out to the board at Caldwell and Herring Designs, pleading that this was all a misunderstanding. But the investigation had already begun, and the evidence against him was damning. Shell accounts, misappropriation of company travel funds, suspicious gifts to a consultant with no formal record of employment. It was all there. Signed, time-stamped, cataloged. Gregory had underestimated Amber. Big mistake. By midweek, whispers had turned into headlines. Charleston architect accused of fraud and infidelity. Firm launches. Internal audit sources claim Gregory Collins misused corporate funds in a long-standing affair with a financial advisor. Amber didn't gloat. She didn't even comment. But she was watching everything. From her lawyer's office, she sipped green tea and read each article with a steady hand. Danielle Price sat across from her, flipping through depositions. "The media's spinning it in your favor," Danielle said. "The board's keeping distance from Gregory, and Cassandra just filed for relocation to Florida. She's jumping ship." Amber tilted her head. "And what about the lake house?" "Reinstated under your name." The judge ruled it was altered without consent. "Gregory's name is off the deed." Amber nodded. "Good. That place is mine." She had no interest in revenge for revenge's sake. This was about correction, restoration, about reclaiming her narrative. After years of silent compromise. Late one evening, Amber climbed into the attic of their old estate. Dust clung to boxes. Memories surrounded her. Photo albums, Isabel's kindergarten art, old receipts from a life she once called happy. She found a leather-bound journal tucked behind a broken lamp. Gregory's. At first, she hesitated, but curiosity overpowered restraint. The entries were candid and devastating. "Cassandra makes me feel young again, like someone listens. Amber's so perfect, too perfect. I vanish in her shadow. I used the company card. Just this once. We needed the Aspen trip. Needed the time. Amber will never know. She doesn't want the truth. She wants the illusion." Each word pierced deeper than the last. Amber closed the journal, her fingers trembling. He hadn't just betrayed her physically. He had resented her, envied her strength, feared her capability. But he had needed her, and now he had nothing. 3 weeks post-gala, Cassandra Langley's life was also falling apart. Her firm, Langley Financial Advisory, was under audit for unregistered shell activity. The Miami business address was now linked to at least 3 illicit investment schemes Gregory had used to hide transfers. A subpoena arrived. She ignored it. Then a second. Then came the federal inquiry. Cassandra panicked. Her calls to Gregory went unanswered. She sent him a final message. "You said this would be safe. You said she was fragile." Amber read it first. She had Gregory's phone cloned before he moved out. "Fragile?" she murmured. "We'll see who breaks." Amber agreed to one meeting. One. Gregory showed up at Danielle's office looking like a man drained of color and sleep. He didn't. Even sit at the negotiation table, he collapsed into the chair. "Why?" he asked hoarsely. "Why humiliate me like this?" Amber was composed. Her navy suit was sharp, her eyes colder than he remembered. "Because you underestimated me," she said. "You didn't just cheat, Gregory. You tried to erase me from my legacy. The lake house? Isabel's trust fund? You risked everything. I built. You didn't just lie. You tried to replace me. I never meant to." "You meant every word in that journal," Amber cut in. "You resented me, so you gambled everything, and now you've lost." Gregory looked at Danielle. "What do you want?" Amber answered. "I want my name off everything we built together. I want 70% of the business equity I helped establish. I want Isabel's college fund reinstated. And I want your resignation, public and irrevocable." He stared. "That will ruin me." Amber leaned forward. "You did that all by yourself." That night, Amber found a letter slipped under her bedroom door. From Isabel. "Mom, I saw the headlines." Dad tried to explain, but he looked broken. "I'm sorry you had to go through this in silence. I wish I'd seen it sooner. You always told me to know my worth, to demand respect. I see now that you were living that lesson, quietly, until you couldn't anymore. I'm proud of you. Love, Izzy." Amber clutched the letter to her chest and cried for the first time in weeks, not out of grief, but out of release. Gregory resigned. From Caldwell and Herring Designs in disgrace. The board released a statement thanking Amber Collins for her steadfast integrity and contributions. The lake house, restored and repainted, stood quiet one early autumn morning as Amber walked its shoreline barefoot. She held the last remnant of her marriage in her hand, Gregory's journal. She set it in a fire pit, lit a match, and watched. The pages curl into flame. The wind carried the ashes across the lake. The media storm eventually quieted, but the world Amber Collins had known was now completely different, cleansed, yet scarred. The silence after the chaos was almost unsettling. With Gregory behind bars awaiting trial and Cassandra's reputation in tatters, the public's attention slowly turned elsewhere. But for Amber, this was just the beginning. Her home no longer echoed with doubt or betrayal. Instead, it held the quiet stillness of healing. Boxes lined the walls, evidence of the life she was rebuilding on her terms. The smell of fresh paint and the soft rhythm of rain against her windows reminded her daily. She had survived the fire, and now she was shaping her world. She didn't cry anymore. Instead, she planned. Gregory's trial date approached with a grim inevitability. His face, once familiar on company newsletters and social media family posts, now appeared in mugshots and legal documents. Amber had provided a mountain of evidence: emails, financial documents, audio recordings, and even phone backups recovered by a forensic IT expert. The list of charges grew heavier: financial fraud, corporate embezzlement, evidence tampering, and obstruction of justice. His once prized firm filed for bankruptcy. Lawsuits came pouring in from defrauded investors and shareholders. Even his defense team began to waver as more of his manipulations surfaced. He had alienated everyone, except Cassandra. Amber watched, emotionless, as the prosecution presented Gregory's hidden accounts, offshore assets, and falsified projections. The court was spellbound. Gregory's pale face and hollow eyes betrayed no defiance, only fatigue. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was merely trying to survive. Cassandra had vanished from the spotlight. The wellness studio she once used to manipulate her followers closed down abruptly after customers demanded refunds and accused her of selling lies. Her former friends abandoned her, sponsors withdrew, and public outrage exploded on social media. In an unexpected twist, Cassandra was admitted into a private psychiatric care facility after an apparent breakdown. Amber didn't celebrate this. She had once thought Cassandra a villain, but what she saw now was something more pathetic. A woman so desperate for validation that she'd destroyed lives to feel relevant. One night, a manila envelope arrived at Amber's door. No return address. Inside were handwritten letters from Cassandra, penned with trembling ink and crossed-out words. Amber, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve to be heard. I'm sorry. For everything. I should have walked away. I should have had the strength to stop him. I lost myself in the illusion. I thought if I could be like you, he would love me, but he never did. I hope you find peace. See, Amber read it twice. Then she locked it in a drawer. She wasn't ready to feel compassion, not yet. Amber returned to her career, but differently. No longer the corporate wife standing in the shadows, she rebranded herself as an independent consultant and crisis strategist. Companies sought her insights on navigating internal betrayal and rebuilding after disaster. She didn't hide her past. She turned it into power. People listened. Her podcast, The Phoenix Room, became a viral hit. Guests included whistleblowers, survivors of public scandal, and women who had rebuilt from betrayal. Amber's calm, precise voice carried wisdom born from fire. We are not defined by who breaks us, she said in one episode. We are defined by how we rise when the wreckage settles. She bought a new office in the heart of the city and hired a team, mostly women who had left toxic work environments. Her mission was clear: to create spaces where dignity was non-negotiable. One gray afternoon, Amber received a visitor, Harriet Alcott, Gregory's mother. Amber almost didn't open the door. The older woman stood stiffly in a long beige coat, her silver hair tucked beneath a modest hat. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. I needed to see you, Harriet said, her voice breaking the silence. Amber led her inside. They sat in the living room, the same space once filled with laughter and lies. I wanted to hate you, Harriet confessed. I thought you were cold, calculating. But I see now. I was blind. My son destroyed everything, and you stood there, like a pillar. I didn't have a choice, Amber said quietly. Harriet handed her a photograph. It was a picture of young Gregory, maybe 8 years old, standing in a field with his father. "I failed him," Harriet whispered. "But maybe, through all this, you've saved others from becoming him." She left without asking for anything. In return, Amber sat for a long time, holding the photo. She didn't feel vindicated, just tired. But lighter, too. 6 months later, at a panel on business ethics and leadership, Amber met Elias Monroe, a journalist turned author known for his investigative work on corporate corruption. His voice was warm, his wit sharper than his tailored suit, and unlike Gregory, he didn't posture or perform. He listened. They spoke after the event. Coffee turned to dinner to long walks, and eventually to quiet mornings wrapped in conversation and trust. Elias never tried to fix her. He respected her boundaries and never once asked about Gregory unless she brought it up. He made her feel safe in a way she didn't know she needed. One rainy evening, curled up on the couch, Elias looked at her and said, "You're not just rebuilding, you're redesigning your future. That's rarer than people realize." Amber smiled. She hadn't spoken the word love yet, but she was learning to believe in it again. A year after the scandal, Amber stood before a packed auditorium. She was receiving an award for advocacy and resilience in leadership. Cameras flashed. Applause thundered. But Amber's focus was on the people watching her. Women who had emailed her from shelters, interns who had left toxic bosses, clients who had turned pain into purpose. She took the mic. "I lost everything to betrayal, but I found something greater in the rubble. Myself. Don't let anyone tell you silence is strength. Strength is truth, strength is choice, and healing is rebellion." The crowd rose to their feet. In the back row, Elias smiled, and so did Amber's sister, who now worked as her head of communications. Even Harriet was there, silent but proud. Gregory was sentenced to 16 years in federal prison. He tried to appeal, but was denied. The last Amber heard, he had taken up painting behind bars, portraits mostly. He sent one to her lawyer. She never opened the package. Cassandra remained in care for a while, but later moved to a quiet coastal town. Amber occasionally saw her name on therapy blog guest posts, anonymous but unmistakably hers. Amber never responded to the letters Cassandra continued to send, but she kept them. Amber bought a small lake house, quiet, surrounded by woods, with a study that overlooked the water. It became her sanctuary. On the wall hung a framed document, not from the court or her career, but a single quote handwritten by her younger self during the early days of her podcast. "You were never broken. You were forged." She sat by the window that evening, sipping tea, watching dusk roll in. Elias sat beside her, reading. No chaos, no whispers of betrayal, just peace. Amber Collins had walked through fire, and now she was whole.